missed church this week, and it was because of youth sports. I don't know. I don't feel horrible about it, but I don't feel great about it. I like going to church. The church is a pretty big priority for us. I love the church we go to right now. I haven't always liked going to church. I mean, there have been moments in my life where I was like, this isn't particularly useful. This isn't my favorite thing right now. Sometimes you just feel a little beat up. I don't know. But we're in a great season right now. I like being there. The stuff that is happening up front, the stuff that's kind of part of the rhythm of the year, the liturgical stuff that we do. I like it. I think it's real cool. And I miss it when I'm not there. Stuff happens, travel and things like that. I travel for work, whatever. You miss church sometimes, right? But today felt weird because we missed church for just tennis. I don't know. I don't like tennis more than I like church. So it's kind of odd to be out there at the tennis courts this morning, and I can say that I don't like tennis more than I like church, but here I am, push came to shove, And ultimately, I guess my calculation was I thought we were playing a Saturday tournament. It went a little long. My son is playing in the championship match this morning. He took it all the way to a tiebreaker. Almost won it. Just banging it back and forth, just smiling. He's pretty new to tennis. He did so well. So proud of the way he conducted himself, treated his opponents. It was great. He didn't win. My daughter picked up a couple wins. She didn't ultimately win the tournament either. But to not go to the tournament would mean you kind of showing up everybody else as well. I don't know if I'm running the right calculation or not. Whatever. We didn't go to church today. I don't feel perfect about it. Also, don't feel criticized if you're doing youth sports or whatever. It's the internet. That's the deal with this podcast. I don't get to tell you, you run your calculation, do whatever you need to do. I'm just talking about me. I felt weird about it, and I didn't like that it kind of sent the message that at least today I like tennis more than I like church, when in fact I don't like tennis more than I like church. That's kind of the contrast sort of deal that we run into in this next part of the vows in this covenant ceremony that we're looking at in Nehemiah chapter 10. The first vow, we've been, liking it to a marriage the whole time we've been talking about it. It was very marriage oriented in tone. We promise not to give our daughters in marriage to the peoples around us or take their daughters for our sons. Whoa, okay, that's verse 30. Verse 31 it hits a little closer to the experience I was talking about today. It goes like this. When the neighboring peoples bring merchandise or grain to sell on the Sabbath, we will not buy from them on the Sabbath or on any holy day. Every seventh year, we will forego working the land and we will cancel all debts. So the first vow says we're going to do marriage differently than the world. The second vow says we're going to do business differently than the world. Why? Because there's stuff that's more important to us than getting money and going to work. And that is honoring God. And God said that there's going to be some sort of concept of Sabbath here. Well, it wasn't some sort of. It was very explicit in the Old Testament. Jesus seems to sort of fulfill or complete the idea of the Sabbath in the New Testament. But for them, under this covenant, they were supposed to absolutely, strictly honor the Sabbath. And also, it's not just a Sabbath of weeks or days, it's a Sabbath of years. Every seventh year, hey, this is not always going to be popular with the people we work with, the people from outside of our circles. It's going to make us a really tricky bunch to do business with, kind of in the same way it's tricky to schedule Zoom calls with Arizona because of how they do daylight savings time. It's going to be weird. You're going to have an extra drop-down form to do business with us ancient Jews, but you're going to have an extra drop-down form to do business with us ancient Jews, but this is just what it is. We're going to honor these Sabbath commands, and we're going to honor God first instead of business best practices. And I kind of love it. I mean, talk about putting your money where your mouth is, right? If they honor this thing and they do what they say they're going to do, what do people like more than money? Really, when push comes to shove, it's not even that hard to rationalize it for liking it too much. You can always be like, but if I have more, then I can do more good things with it. And probably you will. Great. Everybody seems to really, really like money and have a nearly endless appetite for it. So anytime I see anyone in my life forfeit money they could put in their pocket for principle, I'm like, dang, well, tell me more about your principles. What would cause you to do that? That's very interesting to me. So you think about a whole people group doing this? Dang. Yeah, that's compelling. Now I said, I think it was yesterday we were talking, I was saying that all of these vows, even if you weren't at this covenant ceremony, and I assume you weren't since it was 2,500 years ago, even if you haven't taken these vows yourself since, they all affect your life. And this one has affected your life. It affected my childhood. Surely nothing was open on Sundays. Even now, there's always reduced hours on Sunday. But the concept of Sabbath in really just about every stripe of Christianity, there are a few who really make the effort on this. Obviously, Adventists, certain strains of Orthodox, I think, do well. Certain Catholics do well on this. And certain evangelicals and very conservative Calvinist Reformed type Lutherans do pretty well on this. For the most part, Christians of all stripes have kind of moved away from really honoring a day of the week at all as a day of rest. And that's reflected in how we do business and youth sports and how things are scheduled. But it used to be that this concept, even if not this exact execution, sort of affected the rhythms of life. No, not sort of. It deeply affected the rhythms of life. And one thing I didn't like about it was inconvenient. Like, I want Chick-fil-A today. Well, you can't have it. We're closed. But one thing I kind of do like about it is what I was saying earlier, that principle concept, right? The idea that somebody likes something more than money. Well, what is it? What do you like more than money? Oh, it's family. Oh, it's, family and church. Oh, it's this concept of Sabbath. Like, to you, this seems like an important act of obedience. Okay, cool. I can really respect it when someone prioritizes something, especially something intangible and human, over the relentless pursuit of more money, more money, more money. And I think it's implicit here as well. I hope it is. It's explicit in other parts of the Old Testament that one of the principles applied to how we're going to do, quote, business different than everybody else is that you don't cheat people, that you just got to give the benefit of the doubt. I have a buddy who I love playing tennis with. He's super athletic. He's an Iron Man. He's just great. I've told you about him before. And we were talking even today about how much we appreciate the honor system we have for when we play tennis. The games are competitive. We both play hard. And I never come away from my games with him feeling cheated, because I know that if he calls a ball that I hit out, he is sure it was out, because he would just never violate his integrity to pick up a point in stupid tennis. Who cares, right? And it's kind of the same thing in business. There are people who I know where I'm like, I just know what your principles are. And I know that if you say that's the way it is, that it is the truth and you are acting honorably, because there's no way that person would sacrifice even an ounce of their integrity or compromise in that way for money. You can get money some other way. If you get it that way, you feel gross about it. People who have that kind of value system, dang, I like doing business with them, because again, they're principled. There's something they like more than money, and that's very compelling to me. So we got two things so far that are really markedly different. We're going to do marriage different. We're going to do business different. And there's a lot of stuff left on this list that we're going to look at moving forward. The next one kind of gets into the relationship between the church and the state, and which is which and how separate they ought to be. It might seem like a little bit of a stretch, but we'll unpack it next time around. This is a multifaceted, binding, multi-generational covenant that is being created here that affected the people who are making it very deeply, and that affect the world that you and I live in all the way up to this day, even if we have not taken these vows ourselves. We'll continue chipping away at those next time around. I think that's plenty for now. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.